Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Monday and welcome back to Norse Studies. Let's talk about the creation of ash and elm. I decided to spend some time focusing on this story because we live in an era that is remarkably anti-human. Of all the species on Earth, we are the only ones questioning whether or not we have any business existing. For example, cats do not wake up in the morning, then reflect on how much of an asshole they can be, and then how frequently cats in general can be assholes, and then conclude that perhaps the world would be better off if cats ceased to exist. The very idea is ludicrous. Animals and plants do not experience self loathing, and much of the self loathing that humans now experience has been deliberately and artificially instilled into them. And it is a hateful thing to do, dragging people down, leading them down the false premise that everyone should apologize just for existing. It's a secularized concept of sin, and by dint of that sin, humans therefore exist without justification. And if any of us wonder why mental illness is so rampant, we could do worse than begin examining the motivations of the people who preach that kind of degradation. What's more, the mindset is inherently anti pagan. You won't find a pagan mythology in which the creation of humankind is not a deliberate act of the gods, and done because the gods specifically wanted us to be here and found the earth empty without us. Now, in the Norse context, after Midgard came into being, Odin and his brothers, Vili, also called Honir, and Ve, also called Luther or Loder, and believed by many to actually be Loki, they were walking along the new seaside shores, and everything was looking marvelous. There was clear water, fresh air, a bright blue sky, a few clouds aesthetically drifting across, and there was just this air of happiness and contentment all around. But it was quiet, far too quiet. And that's when Odin and his brothers came across two pieces of wood. Some sources describe them as uprooted trees, others as driftwoods, and still others as just kind of these logs that just happened to be there. But what is not in dispute is that it was wood. Then Odin, Honir, and Lothar shared the same idea in that moment. They dashed to that wood and they set about the creation of man and woman. Honir stood over the first piece. He was casting a shadow, and the wood immediately gained arms and legs. Lothar did the same with the second piece, but he moved in a more, animated fashion than Honir did. So that piece not only gained the arms and the legs, but it also seemed to kind of dance in the sunlight. Odin then breathed life into the man and woman, and this bestowed upon them the gifts of soul and mind. Lothar then gave the woman beauty, comprehension, and the senses of touch, smell, sight, hearing, and taste. Next, Lothar gave the man blood, understanding, and the physical senses. Honir next gifted the man and woman with the power of speech, and then the first human couple, they joined hands tightly together, and they began to walk into the new world. Odin commanded them to stop, which they did, and then he gave them their names. He looked at the man and said that his name was Ash, and then he turned to the woman and informed her that she was to be called Elm. He then draped a cloak over the woman's shoulders and set the pair on their way, the woman being placed under the protection of the man, and so it was to be going forward until the end of time. So, in that brief story and account, there's a lot to unpack. Let's start with the idea that the creation of humankind did not involve a goddess. At first glance, that might seem very counterintuitive because we know that creation, in any context, requires the union of the masculine and the feminine. But let's stop and think about what the masculine role in creation is, that infusion of the seed to join with the egg. In the case of this story, we had the infusion of masculine deity joining with the matter of the wood to make something that was more than the sum of its parts. Then there's the matter of three gods. Three is a number that pops up in paganism a lot. In the Norse worldview, we have the three Norns. Yggdrasil has three roots. There are three realms before creation: Niflheim, Muspelheim, and Gungagap. There are three brothers for this creation. There are supposed to be 3 years of winter before Ragnarok. There are three classes of men: thralls, yeomen, jarls, thanks to a Heimdall's visits to Midgard. Three is a sacred and a divine number. And another thing to hone in on is that the gods felt that the world was empty and incomplete, and they felt inspired when they encountered materials suitable to form humans, beings that are neither animal nor god, but something in between. Our existence was deemed essential, and it mattered enough to take the trouble to bring us into being. The gifts the first humans were given are also significant: the human form, the spark of life, the ability to perceive and interpret the world, blood to pass on legacy, communication, clothing to protect from the elements, and built in companionship, and protection for the less physically robust partner. The balance and unity of this arrangement provided the best possible start for humanity that could have possibly have been given. The matter of the first pair's names is also significant. They are the names of trees, ash and elm. And we know that the ash tree often represents Yggdrasil itself. And if you consult a magical correspondence book, you'll find that the ash possesses projective or otherwise masculine energy. Elm, by contrast, possesses receptive, feminine energy. The differences in their natures is obvious, and it's reflected in how they function even on the magical level. Ash is used for protection, whereas elm is associated with love. We have the warrior and the nurturer, father and mother, husband and wife. That in and of itself defines the natural and healthy dynamic between men and women. The story communicates an obvious lesson. Human beings were meant to thrive and to use their capacities to do so. Our existence has value and meaning, and that what's more, it is a necessary component to the world. And yes, there are lessons to be learned about good stewardship, taking wise action, virtuous living, but all of our flaws do not negate the purpose and meaning of our lives. All of the gifts given to Ash and Elm can be used in the pursuit of learning, especially learning through experience. It isn't about never making mistakes or avoiding all messes. It's learning from these things so that we can do better in the future. And that's one of the many reasons why there isn't a preoccupation with the concept of sin within Norse paganism, because this faith is not about us looking for reasons to beat ourselves up. It's about seeking out lessons and properly applying them. It's remarkably grounding to reflect upon this story. Beyond beautifully contradicting the rubbish ideas of our modern age, the story is also quite comforting on the individual level. Human beings, the possibility of everything we could be, it mattered enough to Odin and his brothers that they enthusiastically took on the task to make us. They then established relationships with our ancestral kin, and in modern days have gone to great lengths to get our attention, to form new relationships with us, provide guidance, all of which is part of recognizing that we belong to them as part of the extended tribe. And that's why I really do not buy into the school of thought that the gods are indifferent to us or that they just can't be bothered to get involved in human affairs. They were excited for us to exist to start with, and I'm sure they find us somewhat exasperating, maybe extremely exasperating at times, but that doesn't mean that they don't care. I mean, after all, do parents cease to love their children just because the children decided to tap dance on their nerves? No, of course not. That's not how it works. And why would the gods have smaller hearts than we do? So, this story of Ash and Elm is worth clinging to when the noise in the world just gets to be too much for us. It can help us regain our perspective and maintain our ability to recognize the value of human life. So, that's what I get out of the story. Now's the time to let me know what you think of this story and what it has meant to you in your own practice, and just where your train of thought has taken you with the various concepts that are within this story. Tell me all about it in the comments below, or come see us on Gilded. There's a link to join us in the description box, and you'd be very welcome there. But that will do it for now, and I will see you next time. Bye.